Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. It's Transformational Tuesday. We are back talking about the cost of silence and stagnation. You guys, good morning. Good morning. Good morning. We're back at another life lesson. Listen, today's lesson is about the cost isn't free. It's costing you your peace, your purpose, and your power. Listen, the cost of silence and stagnation. What plain small is really stealing from you? Okay. All right. That is today's conversation. All right. So what has staying good morning, big brother, big little brother, little big brother. Listen, what has staying silent or small cost you emotionally, financially, or spiritually? All right. Listen, if um, I want to talk about this because today remember, we're talking about obstacles, right? So it's Transformational Tuesday. I don't want you to ask yourself, have you ever stayed quiet to avoid discomfort or and later felt regret? All right. Have you ever stayed quiet to avoid discomfort and later felt regret? What bold truth is your next level asking from you? Listen, every time you stay silent, okay, every time you stay silent to keep the peace, you pay in authenticity, you pay in connection, and you pay in clarity. Listen, the tightness in your chest and that second guess, and good morning, Miss Gladys. How are you doing, friend? That tightness in your chest, that second guessing, and those sleepless nights, those are the hidden cost of shrinking. All right. Those are the hidden cost of shrinking. And your voice is your power, right? Your truth is strategy and your honesty is the path. Okay. It's the path to healing. All right. All right. Yeah, one of my Project Life members said that I kept quiet for so long to avoid conflict until I realized that I was uncomfortable. Um, until I realized I was confronting myself every day in silence. All right. All right. So I kept quiet so long to avoid confrontation until I realized I was confronting myself every day in silence. Okay. Once she started to speak her truth, opportunities and peace followed. All right. Listen, you don't owe anyone your silence. You don't owe anyone your silence, but you do owe yourself your truth. All right. So let's talk about it on this Transformational Tuesday. All right. The cost of staying silent. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Listen, why this session? This session is about truth telling, okay? Not to others, but to ourselves on this morning. All right. When we silence our truth, okay, we pay for it in our identity, with our intimacy, and with our impact that we have on ourselves and the people around us. Okay. It's Gladys said, I'm blessed. I'm so done with shrinking. I heard that, girl. Right? She said, "You are the best." I didn't know that I was shrinking. Um, I didn't know that it was shrinking me, that I thought I was avoiding confrontation. Yes, yes. And a lot of times it's a learned behavior, but it is a form of shrinking when we get older because guess what? We're doing it to avoid, right? When we're avoiding confrontation, we are avoiding what we feel, right? We're not really speaking our truth. All right. We may have something to say, but we're trying to avoid what? The consequence of that. All right. If I say this, right, this person may say this. A lot of times it's a controlling mechanism, but all of it is a not allowing the truth to be what's spoken. All right. So thank you for that comment. Thank you for that comment. So again, my why is this session is really about truth telling, not to others, but to ourselves, right? When we silence our truth, listen, we pay for it intimately, we pay for it with our identity, and we pay for it with our impact. So staying stuck isn't passive, you guys. It is expensive, right? It is really costing us. So today is about counting the real cost of our avoidance and stagnation so that we can what? Shift forward with our intention. All right. So our disclaimer on this morning is listen, this session will lovingly, right? I say softly. This session will softly challenge you, okay, to confront the obstacles you've normalized. All right. You've normalized similar to what what my good friend Miss Gladys said, you know, a lot of times we don't even know we're playing small when we're doing some of these behaviors, but then we feel the consequence of it in our feelings, right? In our bodies, in our ailments, and our disease, right? Because we really are not saying and experiencing our full truth. All right. And we know that healing isn't about judgment, okay? It's about responsibility, and we all have a responsibility to heal, okay? To heal, all right? If you're ready to move forward, know that freedom starts with what? With your honesty. So, good morning, good morning, good morning. Hey, as you guys see, I'm in my office this morning, so it took a little minute for me to get my screens together, you know, get the lighting together. Yeah, so I'm gonna try to come from my office. It feels good. This is my first life lesson from my base. Just something I'm changing, you know, as I'm expanding. A lot of these life lessons, I'm you know, it's a revelation or a reminder for me. So I'm like, hey, we're gonna go to my office in June. June is a big month for me because I'll be walking past that stage this morning. I mean, not this morning, but this month, right? And truly just about unlocking my potential and allowing stuff to move. So yeah, so if you notice, the background is different, right? This is my office. Okay. So I want you to drop a word in the chat. Let me know how you feeling this morning. I'm feeling grateful, right? I'm feeling grateful that I got up, got dressed. You know, ever since COVID, I do feel like it's just so easy to stay at home, like do all my little stuff from at home, right? And then come into the office absolutely when necessary. Um, but I also feel like it's this comfort zone too, like, right? And I really wanted to move from just this real comfortable space to, you know, getting dressed, getting out the house, you know, and yeah, and then, you know, of course, school is out. So uh the you know, it's a lot going on at the house with my son there and everything. So yeah, good morning, good morning, good morning, everyone. Drop a word in the chat. Let me know how you're feeling on this morning. Okay. How are you feeling on this morning? Again, I'm feeling grateful. Something new, right? Something just new for me today. So let's get present in our bodies. I know it's 9:43, but we still can take a moment to get present. All right, so let's just feel our feet on the floor, our butts in the seat, right? Just bringing some compassion to our bodies on this morning, scanning up our spine, just saying thank you, bringing some compassion and love to this vessel that's going to carry us, that's brought us this far, and that's going to continue to carry us throughout this thing called life. All right, up our necks, just feeling the weight fall off our shoulders, right? Activating our hands on this morning. Good morning, good morning, good morning. Listen, if you need any support, you need some encouragement or anything like that, make sure you DM me and make sure you just put it in the comments, right? We have a community of individuals that's waiting to support. And remember, it's better to give, right? You hear this saying it's better to give to receive. And why does it say that? Because as you give, guess what? So shall be given to you. All right. So so yeah, so if you need some support or anything like that, make sure you drop that in the comments. Okay, who is this session for today? Listen, it's for you if you're finding yourself shrinking in moments that call for boldness. All right. All right, this is for you if you're exhausted from playing small, right? And avoiding confrontation. All right. And if you've been questioning why am I stuck, right? But haven't considered the cost of silence. All right. If you've read the book, Stop It Now, it should be on this back wall. I don't know where it's at, but it will be up there tomorrow. Um, I talk about this, right? This opportunity cost. All right. So typically on, we talk about obstacles. But I'm starting to incorporate this opportunity cost because I think that we don't really understand the cost that we're paying or the cost that we're not willing to pay. Okay. And so we're paying a cost to shrinking, right? We're paying a cost, and that cost is really expensive, right? It's these little nicks and these little emotional things that we're paying that ends up we feel the weight of that. All right. All right. So if you've been questioning why I'm stuck but haven't really considered the silence, all right, haven't considered silence as the cost. All right. Listen, silence isn't always peace, you guys. It isn't always peace. Sometimes it's the protection rooted in pain, trauma, people pleasing, and fear of rejection. All right, but the protection becomes a prison. All right. All right. So similar to what my good friend Miss Gladys said earlier. A lot of times we don't really realize that when we're avoiding confrontation, right, we're actually shrinking. It's a trauma response, right? If you grew up in a home that was violent, right, then or if you were the person that tried to quiet quiet everybody down or be the peacekeeper, or even if you grew up, the feisty one, right? The feisty one ready, and it created a lot of of the response you got from that you really didn't like, right? But you had to, in a sense, be big and bold, right? So as you got an adult, right, it's like, listen, I don't want to do that, right? I don't want to avoid, I'm just trying to do anything to keep the peace. And but that doesn't mean that you don't have a feeling about what's going on. All right. And so sometimes we feel like whatever we're feeling is not important. And I want you to know that that is the truth that will set you free. All right. That feeling that's coming up, whether it's right or wrong. And I think that's the thing. Like, we don't have enough information to know what's right and wrong. Okay. Let's just put that out there. Because life is evolving, because truth is revealed, I think that we are so particular about how we choose to move, and we're judging something as right or wrong when you don't even know, right? You don't have enough information to know if this is right or wrong. And so a part of shrinking is unconscious. And when I say that, something is in my spirit telling me to explain. So a lot of times we're like, I don't want to say that because maybe it's the wrong time to say it. I'm really feeling this ease or this uncomfortableness, but I'm not going to say that because this person may feel away or whatever. Well, we don't really know what the outcome of us saying that may be. Maybe it's true, but maybe it's not true. But what we know is true is this thing is coming up for you, and you're pushing it down and you're rationalizing it, meaning you're giving yourself a rational lie of why you keep pushing it down. And yes, that is called shrinking. All right. So every time you mute your truth, you trade your authenticity for what? For acceptance. All right. And the cost, question mark, right, is your purpose, your joy, your creativity, your connection, and even sometimes, you guys, your income. Yes, we're talking about your income. All right. The lifestyle that you're living, right? This resource that is abundantly out here, and we're wondering why we don't have it, right? And sometimes we're paying this cost of our income because we're shrinking. All right. We're not asking for the promotion. We're not doing the things that really need to be done. Listen, self-abandonment is a coping strategy, you guys. All right. Self-abandonment is a coping strategy, and many people learn to disconnect from their voices, their desires, or their need to feel safe. So many people learn to disconnect from their voice, their desires, or the need to feel safe. But what helped you survive will not help you to what? To thrive in this thing called life. All right. Will help you survive in your teenage years, in your 20s, if you're in your 20s, right? The thing that got you through that, it won't help you to thrive. And that's really what your life is calling for, right? It's calling for this liberation, it's calling for this freedom, and you keep pushing it down like, wait, you stay on the porch, I got this. You stay in the bedroom, right? You ever watch that movie Flowers in the Attic? Have you guys ever watched Flowers in the Attic? It was this movie a long time ago. It's interesting because our family called us Flowers in the Attic. Me and my brothers, we were the flowers in the attic. My mom was very much the wanted the lifestyle, and so we kind of got pushed, to the side. And I say that because a lot of times we're doing that to our emotions, right? They become the flower in the attic, the things that we're trying to hide, and then we're trying to, and when I say perform, we're performing this act, and we're keeping our emotions at bay, and we're keeping our thoughts, our real thoughts and our real feelings at bay, right? And that's costing us because what we're doing is not really truly coming from an authentic place. It's coming from a performative who I should be, right, versus who I am. All right, listen, the hidden cost of, if that makes sense, put an A in the chat for me. All right, listen, the hidden cost of silence. Let's talk about the emotional cost, right? This is the anxiety, the resentment, the disconnection from self and others, right? The mental cost, which is the confusion, the lack of clarity, the low confidence, right? The financial cost, staying in unaligned jobs and undercharging in your business, right? This is huge. staying in unaligned jobs, all right, that's stressing you out, right? But you're staying, right? um and it's causing more stress than not, right? Or undercharging in your business, or even sometimes one of the things that came out in my research is this overconfidence, right? Charging too much because you feel, right, this overconfidence that's really like not allowing your business to perform the way, and I don't think that's talked about enough. All right. The relational, right? Relational, the hidden cost of silence, relational. So settings, unhealthy dynamics, isolation in our relationships. All right. I want you to ask yourself, where in life are you paying the price for not showing up fully? And just be honest with yourself. Okay. This was about radical honesty. All right. Listen, where in my life am I paying the cost of not fully showing up as the person that God created me to be? Way early in the beginning of this project, I told you guys, I feel like God created you at 100%. All right. 100%. Okay. Now, life comes along and says to you, do you want to stay 100% or do you want to be at 90? Right? Or do you want to be 80 or do you want to be 70? And slowly we start to do things to, you know, temper us down. Okay. Right. And I say, listen, God made me 100%. I'm going to stay 100%, as close to that 100% as possible. Whenever I feel like I'm giving up or I'm not being me, right? Then I'm like, oh, that was 90% of me. I know I really wasn't fully being honest. What was that thing that was scaring me from really saying the thing that I wanted to say? What made it so uncomfortable for me, right? Because if God made me 100%, then I think it's my responsibility to stay close to that 100% because that's where I'm going to be protected at the most and being fully me. You know what I mean? There's a space, right, that is fully for you, and that is where your protection lies. All right. And if you're not in that space, and you're looking for this covering, a lot of times you're not getting covered because you're not in your true space, right? You in somebody else's lane looking for coverage. You in somebody else's vehicle, but it's insurance on your car under your name, right? And you looking to be insured by being somebody else or what somebody else told you to do. If that makes sense, put an 8 in the chat for me, right? And it's not, you're insured for you. All right. So be the best you can be, right? Because everybody else is taken. All right. Listen, opportunity cost of stagnation. By not using your voice, you guys, listen, or your gifts, you're not just avoiding discomfort. Guess what? You're forfeiting your growth. All right. You're wondering why you feel stuck. You're wondering why you can't, you know, grow, right? But a big part of it is because what? Because you're forfeiting your growth, right? By not using your voice, by not tapping into your gifts, right? You're not just avoiding discomfort, all right? You're forfeiting your growth. Listen, every time you say, I'll wait, it's not time, I'll do that later, right? It costs you your momentum, it's costing you your joy, your income, and your peace, all right? So I want you to ask yourself, what opportunity has passed you by because you stayed quiet or stuck, all right? All right. Listen, you don't avoid risk by staying silent. Okay. You don't avoid risk by staying silent. Let me just say that, right? You create a different kind of pain. All right. You don't avoid risk by being quiet. You create by being silent. Okay. You create a different type of pain. The type of pain that of regret, of disconnect, and of playing small, right? And the path to empowerment begins with truth telling. And if you need assistance with this, listen, this ain't no time to feel shame or guilty or, like you raised your hand, you're saying, yes, yes, that's me. That's liberating. All right. That's the liberation. That's the trigger. All right. So if you're identifying with this and you're like, man, you're speaking to me, right? Don't shrink. Raise your hand boldly. Say, yes, that's me. Okay. And then what? What's the next step that I need to do to start learning how to what? Stand up, use my voice, speak my truth, right? Because that is a learning curve. All right. The mind at this point only knows how to shrink, how to avoid, right? And so you got to teach it that it's safe to not shrink, to not play small, and to speak your truth. And that in itself is what is the activity that you need to go into, and that's where you need the support. All right. All right. All right. So what is our quote today? Listen, staying silent is like paying rent on a life that doesn't belong to you. All right. Let me say that again. Staying silent is like paying rent on a life that doesn't belong to you. All right. Listen, a client once said, I keep peace by keeping quiet. But what she realized was that her silence wasn't keeping her silence was only keeping her in this toxic cycle, you guys. She was avoiding hard conversations with her partner, with her boss, okay, and even her children, not because she had nothing to say, right? Not because she had nothing to say, but because she feared what? Rejection. Okay, she feared rejection. All right, the silence cost her emotional intimacy, job opportunity, and eventually her sense of self. All right, her breakthrough was speaking her truth. Didn't Her breakthrough was speaking her truth didn't cause her to lose anything. It actually created alignment in her life. So let's do our heart check-in, okay? You can put your hand on your heart or whatever, but I want you to, you can put your hand on your heart, right? Or just bring some presence, right? For this heart check-in to really bring your emotions in, right? A lot of times when I'm speaking to you guys, I get this feedback like I feel like you were speaking right to me, and that can be emotional. So I do these heart check-ins to really kind of bring you back, right? Because when that happens, sometimes you go in your head and you start to think about the things that makes this conversation relevant to you. So we're going to do this heart check-in. I want you to ask yourself, what has your silence cost you, right? Emotionally, mentally, relationally, and financially. And then I want you to pause, right? Breathe, okay? And just be honest. All right. Just be honest with yourself on this transformational Tuesday. All right. Listen, emotional avoidance, I want you to know, feels safer, but it's more costly than we think. All right. All right. So emotional avoidance may feel safe, but it's more costly than we think. Many people confuse avoidance with strength, you guys. They say, I'm moving on and I don't want to dwell on this. But what they're actually doing is spiritually dissociating from the pain or bypassing the pain, right? Avoidance may preserve your image, but it bankrupt your truth. All right. It may preserve your image, but it bankrupt your truth. Like I'm working with a client right now that's going through a breakup. Okay. And the it's interesting. Now, I love working with individuals. One, I think that people are just so interested in this, the way the brain works and how our sophisticated our minds are, and this individual is using a very sophisticated thing that we do, which is, you know, um, making the other person bad, right? And in some way, it's like this person did this horrible thing to me, and because this person did this horrible thing to me, I shouldn't feel, right? Like in some way, if I make this person bad enough, it's going to justify me not feeling this pain that I'm feeling, or why I shouldn't feel this pain because this thing that this person did was horrible. All right. And one of the things that I'm working with this individual is in doing is um let's just do a radical acceptance that you broke up with a person that you've been with for 7 years. All right. And that hurts. We can just stay right there. Right. We don't have to even go any further about what the person did. Let's just grieve that. Okay. I was with a person for 7 years. The last 7 years of my life, this is all I've known. And now we're not together, and just sit in that, right? Just sit in that emotion of what that feels like, because that is where you're going to take your power back, right? Because the power is in you allowing yourself to feel what that feels like. Now we can discuss, okay, what happened and all of that. But what I feel like you're doing is you're jumping over the feeling of the grief that of being with a person for 7 years, and you're justifying that, right? You're emotionally avoiding that to feel safe or to protect yourself from this pain. That's real. And we do that. All right. And we need to know that it's okay to feel the grief. And we can feel grief in different ways, right? From the loss of a relationship, from a loss of an individual, from the loss of what I thought my life was going to be. A lot of us are grieving in this thing called life, and we are emotionally avoiding that to feel safe, to feel protection, right? And it's not doing what we think it is. It's actually costing us. All right. Again, many people confuse avoidance with strength, and it's just not a form of strength. All right. Listen, you're not weak for feeling, you're wise for facing it. All right. You're not weak for feeling, you're wise for facing that. All right. Something else I want you to know is that cycles repeat when lessons are unclaimed. All right. Cycles repeat when lessons are unclaimed. So what you avoid today will revisit you tomorrow. Okay, what you avoid today will revisit you tomorrow. The same type of relationships, bosses, and internal voices will show up again, right? Until you finally say, this version of me doesn't live here anymore, right? So I say, everywhere you go, there you are. So you're going to meet yourself and your problems in different people, places, and things until you really face it. All right. And that's again why raise your hand, get the help, get the guidance that you need, right? Because wherever you go, there you are. Listen, patterns aren't just habits, you guys. They're rehearsals for the unhealed pain. All right. They're rehearsals for the unhealed pain that you're continuing to live. All right. So we just have to get comfortable, right, with healing that and feeling our way through that. All right. Listen, opportunity cost is not just missed money. All right. The word opportunity cost definitely is a business term, right? It's a business term. It's often used in business. But I use it in a stop and now mythology because I really do feel like there's a lot of opportunity cost that either we're not taking or that we have taken that we're not um a lot of cost to us shrinking and things like that that we're not really thinking about. All right. So listen, opportunity cost is not just missed money, you guys. It's a missed identity. We often associate opportunity cost with time and income, but there's a deeper loss. Okay. There is a deeper loss. There's a deeper loss. The deeper loss is who you could have been. All right. If you gave yourself permission to evolve. All right. And you feel that, and something about you knows that, right? That's a part of grieving, right? If I would have did this, if I would have done that. And a lot of us get stuck in that too, to that if, right? And again, I encourage you to take my emotional intelligence course because we talk about the should haves, the would haves, right? And really coming to the present moment, right? And living in integrity. Listen, you don't just lose an opportunity, you actually lose a future version of yourself when you don't fully step in, right, and embrace life. All right. Listen, every time you choose silence, someone powerful in you gets silenced too. Someone powerful in something powerful. Remember, this week is all about the cost. I mean, this week is all about what's really holding you back. All right. We're talking about unlocking your potential in the month um of June. All right. So this unlocking your potential, even though we think about the word potential, it's this tapped energy, right? It's this unused energy that's waiting to be used, that's waiting to be released, right? And so how do we unlock that? And this week we're talking about uncovering what's really holding you back. And a big part of what's holding you back is this cost of silence, right? This silence and the stagnation that's keeping you small, right? And what I'm encouraging you to do on this morning is truly to, right, to um to stop silencing yourself, right? And really learn, and I'm saying learn gently, right? Learn how to speak your truth, all right? And that is a skill. All right, that's not something you're born with. That is something that's cultivated in you. And if you wasn't taught that as a youth that speaking your truth is important, it's amazing to me how sometimes adults know they lying and know you telling the truth and will ask you, so you calling me a lie? And in your mind, you like, yeah, I'm calling you a liar, right? But you couldn't say that, right? You couldn't say that because you would have got your butt whooped and you'd be bleeding, all right? You'd be bleeding, right? So it's we caught these things in life, right? That really kept us small and kept us lying and kept us feeling like we're going to get in trouble. And we have to really relearn how to become adults. All right, listen, most blocks are not logical, they're emotional, you guys. All right. You are likely overthinking instead of underfeeling. All right. You are likely overthinking instead of underfeeling. Okay. We don't stay stuck because we lack knowledge. We stay stuck because our nervous system doesn't feel safe choosing differently. All right. I say every life lesson I'm gonna talk about this nervous system because it's important for you to know that the nervous system is an important part of your evolution. It's an important part of your expansion, and it's an important part of how change is going to be for you. All right. All right. And if you can get your nervous system in alignment to feel safe, right, then this ease that we are looking for is going to come about a lot more swiftly and a lot more aligned. And that happens when we retrain the body that certain things are safe, all right, that we have deemed unsafe, all right. And one of the things that we have deemed unsafe is speaking our truth, right? And really feeling, right? Feeling these emotions. If you notice, like back in the day, and this was coming up in my spirit to say this, when you got emotional when you were younger, how many of you got a whooping for that? How many of you got whooped more because while you was getting a whooping, you was crying? Okay. So there's a level of remembrance, right? If that's even a word, there's a level of remembrance, right? A memory that your body remembers, right? That is like, hey, feeling emotions is not a safe thing. And then we get the like, all of the communication about the heart is deceptive and all of this stuff that really just takes us away from our emotions. So listen, you're likely overthinking than underfeeling because I think that you're feeling a lot of what you're feeling. You're just jumping over those feelings, right? And thinking, all right. So sometimes knowing better isn't the issue, you guys. Feeling safe enough to do better is, all right. And that is what that's a big part of Project Life, right? Is really um moving from this knowing better isn't the issue to really feeling safe enough to what to do the thing. A big part, even being in the office, right, for me is a safety, I guess you would say, thing, right? I'm in the office, I'm by myself, right? Like, do I want to be by myself and really letting myself know that I'm safe, right? Um, it doesn't matter, I can be here by myself, right? So a big part of a lot of the things that we're doing is, do I feel safe enough? Do I feel safe enough to get into the relationship of my dreams? All right. Do I feel safe enough to love? Do I feel safe enough to step into that leadership role? And do I feel safe enough to step into the leadership role and sustain it, right? Enough to sustain my lifestyle. All right. Do I feel safe enough to start the business? Do I feel safe enough to speak my truth? All of these are safety issues. Do I feel safe enough? And it ain't the safety that we've been trained like somebody at the door with the gun, right? It's not that type of safety. It's a nervous system safety. It's this my body is tense safety. It's a neural safety where it's the unlocking, all right. So when I'm saying safety, I don't want you to think about guns to your head, but guess what? Sometimes that's how your nervous system feel, and it sophisticatedly will push that thing back because it just doesn't feel safe enough. All right. It just doesn't feel safe enough to have this conversation. I don't feel safe enough to do this thing. Right. And we need to really work on you feeling safe. All right. In your body, in your truth. Okay. All right. Listen, you need permission to grieve what you've settled for. And this is another big thing. Before you can really step into your new story, okay, you must grieve the ones that you lived in for too long. So you must grieve, right? The ones that you lived in for too long. Stagnation isn't always about laziness, you guys. It's often unprocessed disappointment. All right. All right. I want you to take a pause and I want you to really put a heart in the chat or a one in the chat if you can be honest about this. All right. This unprocessed disappointment, wanting to be somewhere different, by now wanting to have a different bank account, wanting to have just a different circumstance, right? Feeling that maybe my relationship would be different, right? Right. So stagnation isn't sometimes about laziness, it's this residue of unprocessed disappointment that is weighing on you. All right. And we have to give ourselves permission to say, listen, that wasn't enough. That wasn't enough for me. And I forgive myself for staying, all right, in these situations, in these circumstances, right, that may have delayed, right, my growth. If it was um staying in a relationship that wasn't enough for me, staying in a community that wasn't enough for me, staying in a job that wasn't enough for me. Listen, I forgive myself for staying, right? Ain't no need to really hold on to that, right? Let me digest this disappointment, right? This unprocessed disappointment, so that I can start creating a new story and I can start moving forward in my life. And then hopefully in the next 3 years, my life will look totally different or more in alignment with what I would want to be experiencing. All right. All right. And you can do that. All right. You can do that. All right. Listen, you can't see from the inside. You can't see from inside the glass. Oh, this is you can't see from the inside of the glass that you're trapped in. All right. Listen, sometimes people don't even know. Sometimes people don't even know what's holding them back because their reality hasn't their reality has become so normal. All right. So sometimes people don't even know, right, what's holding them back, or doesn't even know like what's going on, because the reality that you're in right now is so normalized, right? And you can feel it. You could feel the dis-ease, you feel the discomfort, right? But sometimes people around you, especially my audience, right, especially my clientele, you've had a level of success. All right. You doing a little bit for yourself, a lot of it actually, right? And but there's still this lack of fulfillment, and that the normalizing from the outside is like, you should be happy that you got this, you should feel grateful, right? So there's this kind of guilt that you're carrying, right? This residue. All right. All right. So you need a mirror, a coach, or a community that lovingly reflects back to you the gap between who you are and who you are becoming. All right. And we all need that. Again, that's why I have accountability partners and coaches and things like that, because I know that there's a gap, right, in my becoming. And to accelerate that process, right, I undergo a lot of self-reflection. And not just from myself, from other people, right? All right, listen, you don't have to figure it out alone. Clarity loves community, you guys. And Project Life is a great community that you can join. All right. Listen, silence and stagnation is not passive. They're patterns rooted in self abandonment. Every time you silence your truth, you disconnect from your identity. Okay. Misaligned opportunities, and you stay in environments that are not designed for your growth. All right. Avoidance really robs you of the clarity and of the confidence. And the longer you delay your truth, listen, the more expensive the cost becomes. All right. All right. And that cost that is more expensive is the emotional cost, the spiritual cost, and the financial cost. Listen, one of my clients shared with me how years of avoiding hard conversation led to burnout, right? In every area of their life. Okay. In every area of their life. But when they finally started to speak up, right? Not only did their marriage shift, but their personal relationships started to shift, and their professional ones, right? So they felt more confident in their career and in their peace. Okay. Listen, I if you ever work with me, you know that I'm always pushing you to the edge, right? I'm always really, even if you've just had one or two conversations with me, just say that you've seen me somewhere. I am the I'm gonna ask the rich conversations, right? When I say rich, I'm just saying like the more depth, how has things been going? I'm going to give some type of, I would say maybe a thought provoking, statement or something like that. Anyway, but I'm always pushing people, right? Um, to to think, right? To think differently. And sometimes sometimes it works and sometimes it backfires on me. But I'm working with this one client and I pushed her to have a conversation. She's about to get married and a beautiful, beautiful soul, right? Beautiful individual. And it was just some things, right, that needed to be talked about to really seal this marriage, right? To really solidify it. And when I tell you like the right, the having the conversation, how emotionally rattling it was in the beginning, it was like an explosion, but coming back, right? Coming back and saying, I'm so glad that I said that. I feel so relieved. I can actually go sit on, my partner's lap and cuddle with him, and have intimate moments that they really hadn't been able to share because this information hadn't been and shared. So I just think that the level of intimacy that we're looking for, in our partnerships, in our businesses, and things like that is, the more we can communicate, right, the closer we can connect to ourselves. And when we feel that connection and that trust within ourselves, guess what? We can give that freely. All right. All right. That makes sense. Put a heart in the chat for me. Listen, we know that the O, right, in obstacles stand for opportunity, cost, or obstacles. All right. We're talking about Transformational Tuesday. This is different because we used to talk about triggers on Tuesday, but now on Mondays, Mindset Reset Mondays, we talk about stories and triggers. And on Transformational Tuesday, right, we're talking about these obstacles and opportunity costs. Listen, silence isn't neutral, it's an obstacle. All right. Silence is the neutral, it's an obstacle, and the opportunity cost is everything that you could have had, everything you could have become, and or created had you not held yourself back, or if you not been held back, right? By what? By the trauma, and again, when I say trauma, I'm just saying the safety, the lack of safety, the lack of connection. All right. Listen, maybe next time, it's not that deep. It's really costing you something, I would say sacred and divine. All right. So I want to talk about 10 things. Yep, I got about 10 minutes to talk about 10 things. I want to talk about 10 things, right? That I feel like is important under this category. Listen, silence is a coping mechanism. It's not a cure. All right. Silence is a coping mechanism. It's not a cure. So what we don't voice, we internalize. Listen, silence often masks pain, trauma, and shame. And pretending you're fine because becomes the obstacle. But buried truth, okay? Don't buried truth don't disappear. It actually blocks your emotional flow and stagnates your growth. If you read my book, you know that I talk about being in a relationship with my legacy partner, which is my kid's father. So I call him my legacy partner. A big part of me calling him my legacy partner is because we have kids together, right? We're not together, but he's my legacy partner because, you know, but the truth of the matter is he gonna be in my life for the rest of my life. How do I know that? Because we got kids together. That means we're gonna have grandkids together and great 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 grandkids together. And so yeah, we're building a legacy, whether you know I would say whether we want to or not, that's the reality. All right. And so I talk about my legacy partner in the book, and I talk about how I would, walk away, right? And how I would leave the house only to come back, right? And not solve the problem. Silence, right? Silence and go into these long bouts of silence where we're not talking to each other, right? As if it was solving a problem and it really wasn't. Listen, I want you to know that silence is a coping skill. It's not a cure, right? And every time I came back to the house or every time I came back to the relationship, all that stuff that we didn't talk about, right? All of that was being masked when we wasn't talking. Like the pain was just we were just like it was being stored in this room until one day I'm just like, listen, I can't do this. I can't do this anymore. Right. So I started to talk about it and then we ended up, kind of going our separate ways. We tried some different things because we had kids, and I think we were very responsible in trying to figure out how to break up, you know, amicably. We wasn't married, so there was some things that we really had to negotiate because we lived like a married couple. We had the same bank account. We, had mortgages together and things like that. And so we needed to know how to unpack that in a responsible way. And we had these, these beautiful children. All right. So, but I'm saying this to say that this silence is often mask pain, trauma, and shame. Listen, it does not, right? It does not cure it. In this silence, often we pretend that we're fine because that pretending that you're fine actually becomes the obstacle, but buried truth doesn't disappear. Okay, it blocks emotional flow and stagnates the growth, right? And I felt that in that relationship, this stagnated growth. Okay, there's always a cost to not choosing yourself. And I'm going to go back to that. I felt that in my relationship, and I do want to say I see that a lot, right? This block of emotional flow and stagnate and growth, not just in a relationship with people, not just in the relationships that I work with. And people don't know I am a certified marriage and family therapist, right? So I went to school, right, to become a marriage and family therapist. So a big part of my population is relationships, and I'm encouraging them to move forward, right, and really integrate themselves. So it's not something that I experience personally; it's something that I see in my professional life all the time. All right. Number two, there's always a cost to not choosing yourself. All right. There's always a cost to not choosing yourself. Avoiding conflict, staying in toxic spaces, and ignoring your needs may feel easier in the moment, you guys, but it costs your clarity. It's costing your confidence. It's costing you your income. It's costing your peace, and it's costing you your purpose. All right. There's always a cost to not choosing yourself. All right. Number three, unspoken beliefs drive unseen behaviors. Again, these are the obstacles, right, that we face when that we're unlocking, that we're talking about on today. All right, listen, unspoken beliefs drive unseen behaviors. Many people don't realize that what's holding them back is actually a root belief, not an external circumstance. All right, a lot of times we're pointing a finger, right, at these external things, and truly what's holding you back is this root belief. Listen, if one of those beliefs could be, if I slow down, I'll lose everything. I have to prove my worthiness. Listen, until you start to really name these beliefs, right, they keep running a show in the background. And a lot of times, we don't even know that it's our beliefs that's running the show, right? These hidden beliefs, these beliefs that we have agreed to. um, One of the things I was talking to about talking about my kid's father, I was talking to him this morning, and I was telling him about a person that I had to talk to yesterday. But I was telling him about, our black men, and I'm always having conversations about our black men because I love our black men a whole lot, right? And I do feel like there's this level of depression or shame or like emotional dis-ease. Let me just call it that. This emotional dis-ease that a lot of our men are carrying. And one of the things that I definitely want to work on is a program to really help identify that. But one of the things I talked to him about was the shame that I feel like it's not even our black men's, right? We talk about diabetes being something that is passed down, or like your nose or your lips, right? These genes that's passed down. But we don't talk about this shame that, our forefathers carried, right? And just think about the shame that our black men had as slaves, right? When they would get pulled out of their homes or had to experience their wife getting raped or experience their kids being sold off, and this deep pain, right? That got seared into the DNA. All right. And then now you have a man who feels that, right? And don't even know that that's not even yours, right? That's not even your shame. But guess what? They end up going through a shameful situation, or may end up going through a critical time. And because they can identify with the shame, what they do is now they take ownership of all of that. And a big part of this shame and this disease is not even yours. It was seared in your DNA and in your forefathers, your grandfathers, fathers, right? DNA. And I would say that for us too, right? As females, a lot of this emotion is not even ours. All right. Um, all right. So yeah. So these unspoken beliefs drive our unseen behaviors. And I do think that there's a root belief, right? In these silent things that we're not talking about. The belief that my grandfather taught me, right, is my belief. And I know growing up with my grandfather, there was a lot of limiting beliefs that he pierced in me, right, that I had to unlearn, right? But then there was a lot of strengths and resilience that he taught me. All right. But I watched him suffer, right? In being this great man who suffered like with like alcoholism and depression and things like that, and just really not being able to live his life fully because of a lot of his limitations. Okay, move forward, Sheila. Okay, number four, fear masquerading is logic. Okay, obstacles often sound like reasons. What that looks like is it's not the right time. I need more research. I'm being realistic. But these are often fear in disguise, right? These are often excuses in disguise. Self-protection really dressed up as strategies. I said this yesterday. Listen, you can't heal what you're still hiding. Listen, whether it's shame, whether it's disappointment, whether it's anger or grief, what stays unacknowledged stays what? Stuck. All right. What stays unacknowledged stays stuck. So healing requires brutally honest and deep compassion at the same time. All right. This radical honesty and this deep compassion at the same time. I get it. Right. It's kind of like this is the truth and I get it. Right. It's this these two foreign things being fused and locked in together. All right. Because we've been taught what that the truth hurts, right? So in that hurting, there needs to be some compassion. All right, number six, comfort zones are not free; they're expensive. All right, this whole comfort zone, it's not free; it's actually expensive. Staying where you're safe can't cost you. Guess what? Your dreams, your destiny, and your peace. So what feels comfortable may be costing you deeply later. Listen, every no to you is a yes to someone else or a yes to something else. All right. So when you stay quiet, when you self-abandon, when you say I don't have time, you're saying yes to stagnation. You're saying yes to burnout. You're saying yes to other people's priorities, right? And opportunity, and that opportunity cost is real. All right. So every no to you is a yes to something else. All right. Listen, you must separate the event from your identity. All right. Many obstacles are internalized events when what happened to you has been turned into who you believe you are. All right. Let me say that again. Many obstacles are internalized events. What happened to you has been turned into who you believe you are. And that's just not true. All right. That's just not true. That's unhealed perception. All right. Listen, I want you to start unbraiding, right, your identity from these events that has happened to you. All right. Listen, a couple of more old coping doesn't deserve new callings. Listen, the habits and mindsets that help you survive your past can't carry you into your next version of yourself. All right. They can't. It just can't carry you into the next version of yourself. So growth requires you releasing these old protections, even if they once kept you safe. All right. And then last but not least, radical self honesty is the first unlocking key. All right. Radical self honesty. All right. The moment you can name your belief, admit your fear, and acknowledge your truth, guess what you have? That's what you've done. You shift from victimhood to what? Authorship. All right. Empowerment begins where avoidance ends. All right. Empowerment begins where avoidance ends. So radical, listen, radical honesty, self honesty is the way to go. All right. And it doesn't always feel good, but you'll get there. All right. So our biblical wisdom for today, Proverbs 4:23. Above all else, guard your heart, for everything you do flows from it. All right. When we silence ourselves, we guard our hearts. We bury When we silence ourselves, we don't guard our hearts, we bury them. All right. So this verse really reminds us to protect our truth and not suppress it. All right. And then let me make sure. Isaiah 41:10. So do not fear, for I am with you. I will strengthen you and help you. Listen, God's presence gives us the strength to really speak up and shift. You don't, you're not doing this alone. Again, you're not doing this alone. There's a divine help available when you step into it. All right. When you step into it. I don't know what this verse is. I think it's James. I don't know which one it is, but it says, I've come that they may have life and have it more full. And I want to say this, listen, this is a call for abundant living, not survival. All right. If somebody know what this verse is, let me know. All right. I have come that they may have life and have it more and have it to the full. All right. Listen, this is a call for abundant living, not surviving, not shrinking, not settling. When you unlock your voice, own your story, and choose a moment over stagnation or movement over stagnation, guess what? You align with the fullness that already dwells in you. All right. Living life to the full isn't about surviving, you guys. It's about stepping into your truth. That abundance that Yahshua the Messiah promises, guess what? It's waiting on you on the other side of your silence. All right. So every time you choose you over fear, guess what you're doing? You are receiving that promise. All right. You are receiving that promise. Now, how do we put this into practice? Number one, I want you just to identify one area where silence has cost you the most. All right. One area where silence has cost you the most. Let me put these up here. And then I want you to name, okay, name one truth you need to say out loud, right, to yourself or to someone else. All right. So here's your action steps. Mhm. Again, identify one area where silence has cost you. All right. And name one truth that you need to say out loud to yourself or someone else. And then if you need a journal prop, listen, what has staying small or silent cost me, and what's possible if I stop paying that price. All right. This is your journal prompt. Okay. All right. So what has staying small or silent cost me, and um what's possible if I stop paying that price. Our affirmation for today: I no longer pay the price for hiding my truth. I choose my voice and I choose freedom. All right. I choose my voice and I choose freedom. I love that. All right. So I no longer pay the price for hiding my truth. I choose my voice. I choose freedom. All right. And then our intention on this transformational Tuesday. It's a beautiful day. It's a beautiful day in the neighborhood. It's a beautiful day. Did y'all used to watch that? Um, okay, daily intention this week. Okay, I honor myself with I honor myself by telling the truth, right? Especially when it's hard. Especially when it's hard. All right. I was saying, did y'all remember is that Mr. Rogers neighborhood or something? It's a beautiful day in the neighborhood. Okay, and then our bonus challenge on this morning. Listen, within the next 24 hours, I want you to share one truth that you've been avoiding. Listen, you can write this down on paper. You can say it to a friend or in a prayer. Just take the first step. All right, take the first step out of silence. All right. And then we all know that there's this call, this challenge, and this charge that I'm gonna do. Right. So I'm calling, I'm asking if this session hits, I'm calling, I'm asking it, did this session hit your soul? Right? What truth are you walking away with? The challenge is, what's one cost that you're no longer willing to pay? All right. And then the charge for you on this transformational Tuesday is to stop waiting, to speak now, and to do what? Go shape your life. Listen, if if this session resonated with you and you're walking away with some insight, you already know what to do. Drop a fire in the chat. Let's celebrate our growth together. You already know that if you can shape it in your mind, you can have it in your life. If you want to, we do have some more spaces in Project Life. You want to join that. Project Life is where we turn theory into practice, right? Where we build emotional muscle and discipline, and where you stop feeling stuck and start feeling supported. And if you could do me a favor, all right, you know that we're trying to build that YouTube channel. So subscribe to the YouTube channel. And then guess what? Invite a friend to grow with you over the summer. Invite a friend to the Elevating Life group. All right, so that we can meet our goal of 1,000 members or more. Remember, if you can shape it in your mind, you can have it in your life. Again, tomorrow we're talking about patterns that keep you in pause. All right, it's going to be Gratitude Shift Wednesday, and we're talking about patterns that keep you in pause as we continue to unlock what's really holding you back. I love you. I love you. I love you. And I will see you tomorrow for that life lesson. Okay, till later.